What is going on here?
Whoa.
Is this some kind of joke?
The divorce papers were supposed to arrive next Tuesday. Instead, I found my wife's 22-year-old sister Madison living in our guest room with her 3 kids, a boyfriend named Kyle, who looked like he'd never held a job longer than a week, and enough drama to fuel a reality TV show for 6 seasons. "Neil, honey, I know this is sudden," my wife Vanessa said, stirring her coffee like she was discussing the weather instead of turning our lives upside down. "But Madison really needs our help right now. Her landlord evicted them, and Kyle's between jobs." I stared at the parade of chaos flowing through our front door. Madison's oldest kid, a 7-year-old named Braxton, was already jumping on our white leather couch with muddy sneakers. The baby was screaming, and Kyle was dragging in what looked like everything they owned, including a broken television and a mattress that had definitely seen better days. "Between jobs?" I asked, watching Kyle struggle with a garbage bag full of clothes. "What's his current profession?" "Professional couch surfer?" "Don't be mean," Vanessa snapped. "Family comes first. You know that. Family, right." Madison had been nothing but trouble since I'd known her. She'd dropped out of high school, had 3 kids with 3 different guys, and seemed to specialize in making terrible life decisions. Now she was 22, looked 40, and had apparently decided our house was her personal salvation. "How long are we talking here?" I asked, already knowing I wouldn't like the answer. "Just until they get back on their feet," Vanessa said. "A few months, maybe 6. Madison's going to get her GED and Kyle's got some promising leads." 6 months. I looked at Kyle, who was now trying to fit their broken TV into our entertainment center, completely ignoring the fact that we already had a perfectly good television there. He had the kind of scraggly beard that suggested he thought facial hair was a substitute for personality, and arms covered in tattoos that looked like they'd been done in someone's basement. "Kyle," I called out, "what kind of work are you looking for?" He looked up, surprised that someone was actually talking to him. "Oh, whatever's out there. I'm pretty flexible. Did some construction, worked at a gas station, tried my hand at being a DJ." "A DJ?" "Yeah, man, DJ Kyletron. I've got all the equipment." He gestured toward several large speakers and what looked like a mixing board from 1995. "I'm just waiting for the right gig to come along." I felt a headache forming behind my eyes. "And in the meantime?" "In the meantime, he's going to help around the house," Madison chimed in, appearing from the kitchen with our good china in her hands. "Kyle's really handy. He can fix anything." As if on cue, we heard a crash from the living room. Braxton had managed to knock over one of Vanessa's expensive vases while using our coffee table as a launching pad for some kind of acrobatic routine. "It's okay," Madison called out cheerfully. "Kids will be kids." That was 3 weeks ago. Now, as I sat in my car in the driveway, afraid to go into my own house, I realized that my marriage wasn't just in trouble, it was over. Not because of Madison and her circus exactly, but because of what their presence had revealed about Vanessa and me. The woman I'd married 5 years ago had turned into someone I didn't recognize. She'd taken Madison's side on everything, from Kyle's decision to turn our garage into a music studio to Madison's habit of helping herself to our credit cards for emergency shopping trips. Their family had become Vanessa's answer to everything. When I complained about Kyle eating all our food and never contributing a dime. When Madison used our car without asking and brought it back on empty. When the kids broke something new every day and no one seemed to care about replacing anything. But the final straw had come yesterday when I'd discovered that Vanessa had given Madison access to our savings account. $15,000, money we'd been saving for a down payment on a bigger house, was gone. Madison had used it to buy a used car for Kyle and to pay off some of her credit card debt. "I couldn't let them struggle," Vanessa had said when I confronted her. "You're being selfish, Neil. They needed help, and we had the money." "We had the money for our future," I'd replied. "Now we have nothing, and they're still here with their hands out. If you can't support my family, Maybe you're not the man I thought you married. That's when I knew it was over. Not just the marriage, but everything. Our friends had already started avoiding us because every social gathering turned into a Madison and Kyle show. Our house felt like a refugee camp. And now, Vanessa was choosing them over us, over everything we'd built together. I pulled out my phone and called my lawyer. Tom? It's Neil Carter. Yeah, I know it's late. Listen, I need to move forward with those papers we discussed. Tomorrow, if possible. The next morning, I woke up to the sound of Kyle's music equipment blasting from the garage at 7 a.m. The bass was so loud that our neighbor's car alarm went off. I found him in there, wearing headphones, completely oblivious to the chaos he was creating. Kyle! I shouted over the noise. Turn it down! He pulled off his headphones, grinning. Oh, hey, Neil. Just working on some new tracks. You want to hear what I've been working on? What I want is for you to show some respect for our neighbors. And maybe get a job. His grin faded. Look, man, I know you think I'm not trying, but the music industry is tough. You can't just walk into a record label and expect them to sign you. It takes time to build a following. Have you applied for any actual jobs this week? I've been networking. That's how the music business works. I stared at him. He was completely serious. In his mind, making noise in our garage was the same as having a career. Kyle, you have 3 kids to support. Madison's depending on you. Maybe it's time to think about getting a regular job while you pursue your music dreams. Madison understands. She supports my art. Madison is using our credit cards to buy groceries because you don't contribute anything to this household. I contribute plenty. I fixed your garbage disposal last week. You broke our garbage disposal last week. The repair guy we had to call said you'd somehow managed to jam a fork into the motor. Kyle looked confused. Well, it's working now, isn't it? This was the problem. Kyle lived in a reality where his failures were just temporary setbacks on his path to inevitable success. He genuinely believed that any day now, some record producer was going to discover his genius and make him rich and famous. In the meantime, everyone else could support him. I found Madison in the kitchen, feeding the baby while Braxton and his 4-year-old sister Skylar fought over the last of the cereal. My cereal, which I'd bought yesterday and hadn't even opened yet. Madison, we need to talk. Sure, what's up? She was cheerful, as always. Madison had the remarkable ability to remain upbeat no matter how much chaos surrounded her. It was either admirable or infuriating, depending on your perspective. You and Kyle have been here almost a month now. I think it's time to start making some concrete plans for finding your own place. Her smile faltered slightly. We're working on it. Kyle's got some gigs lined up, and I'm looking into getting my GED like I promised. What gigs? Well, nothing definite yet, but there's a lot of interest. And once I get my GED, I can start looking for better jobs. Madison, you've been saying you're going to get your GED for 4 years. What's different now? She looked hurt. I've been busy with the kids. It's not easy being a single mom. You're not single. You have Kyle. Kyle's pursuing his dreams. Someone has to take care of the children. I felt like I was trapped in some kind of logic puzzle designed by someone who'd never heard of logic. Madison couldn't get her GED because she was too busy taking care of kids. Kyle couldn't get a job because he was pursuing his music career. Neither of them could move out because they didn't have any money. And somehow, this was all perfectly reasonable to them. Madison, I'm not trying to be the bad guy here, but Vanessa and I need our space back. We need our savings account back. We need our lives back. I know, and I'm grateful for everything you've done. But family helps family, right? That's what Vanessa always says. Vanessa says a lot of things. What's that supposed to mean? Before I could answer, Vanessa walked into the kitchen, already dressed for work. She kissed Madison on the cheek and ruffled Braxton's hair. Good morning, everyone. Neil, I left some money on the counter for groceries. Madison, don't forget you have that appointment at the community college today. Actually, I said, I was just talking to Madison about timeline for finding their own place. Vanessa's expression hardened. We've discussed this, Neil. They're staying until they get back on their feet. When will that be exactly? Because from where I'm standing, it looks like they're getting more comfortable, not more independent. That's not fair. Madison's been looking for work, and Kyle's building his music career. Kyle's been playing video games in our living room for 3 days straight. Yesterday I found him eating cereal at 2 in the afternoon, still in his pajamas. Everyone needs downtime. Everyone needs a job. Madison looked uncomfortable. Maybe I should give you two some privacy. No, Vanessa said firmly. This concerns you. Neil, I don't understand why you're being so hostile toward my sister. I'm not being hostile. I'm being realistic. We've drained our savings account, our house is chaos, our friends don't want to come over anymore, and there's no end in sight. Our friends? Vanessa laughed bitterly. You mean your friends? The ones who look down on Madison because she doesn't have a college degree and a fancy job. That wasn't fair, but it wasn't entirely wrong either. Our friends, couples we'd known for years, people we'd traveled with and shared holidays with, had definitely started declining our invitations. The last time we'd tried to have people over for dinner, Kyle had wandered into the dining room shirtless, grabbed a beer from the table, and started telling everyone about his music career while the baby cried in the background. They don't look down on Madison, I said. They just don't want to hang out in a daycare center. See? That's exactly what I'm talking about. You're embarrassed by my family. I'm exhausted by your family. There's a difference. Madison stood up, holding the baby. Maybe I should take the kids outside. You don't have to go anywhere, Vanessa said. This is your home now. This is our home, I corrected. Mine and yours. Remember us? The people who are married to each other? Marriage is about supporting each other's families. Marriage is about making decisions together. You gave Madison access to our savings account without even discussing it with me. She needed help. We all need help. I need help understanding how my wife became someone I don't recognize. Vanessa stared at me for a long moment. Maybe the problem isn't that I've changed. Maybe the problem is that you're finally showing who you really are. And who am I? Someone who puts money ahead of family. Someone who's more worried about what the neighbors think than about helping people who need it. Someone who thinks adults should take responsibility for their own lives. Someone who's selfish. The word hung in the air between us. Selfish. Because I wanted my own house back. Because I wanted my wife to consult me before giving away our life savings. Because I thought grown adults should contribute something to the household they were living in. Fine, I said. I'm selfish. What are you going to do about it? I'm going to support my sister, with or without your help. Then you're going to do it without me. I walked out of the kitchen, grabbed my keys, and left for work. But I couldn't concentrate on anything. All day, I kept thinking about that conversation, about the look in Vanessa's eyes when she called me selfish. That evening, I came home to find our friends Jake and Amy sitting in the living room with Vanessa. Jake and Amy were our closest couple friends. We'd been to their wedding, they'd been to ours, we'd taken vacations together. They were the kind of people who always had their act together, who owned a beautiful house and had successful careers and seemed to navigate marriage with the kind of effortless grace that Vanessa and I used to have. Neil, Amy called out when she saw me. We were just catching up with Vanessa. I looked around the room. Kyle was nowhere to be seen, but his music equipment was still set up in the corner. Madison's kids were watching cartoons on our TV, and there were toys scattered across the floor. Madison herself was in the kitchen, talking loudly on her phone about some drama with one of her ex-boyfriends. How's everything going? Jake asked, but there was something careful in his tone. Oh, you know, living the dream. Vanessa was telling us about Madison's situation. That's really tough. Yeah, it's been an adjustment, I said, sitting down on the edge of the couch. Braxton was lying across most of it, completely absorbed in his cartoon. "I think it's wonderful that you're helping family," Amy said. "Not everyone would be so generous." "Neil doesn't think it's wonderful," Vanessa said. "He wants to kick them out." "I don't want to kick them out. I want them to make a plan for becoming independent." "What's the difference?" Vanessa asked. Jake and Amy exchanged a look. "Well," Jake said carefully, "it is your house. You guys should do whatever feels right for you." "Exactly," I said. "It's our house. Our decision. Except, apparently, it's not." "Neil thinks I should have asked his permission before helping my own sister," Vanessa said. "I think you should have discussed it with me before giving away $15,000 of our money." Amy's eyes widened. 15,000? "Madison needed a car and she had some debt," Vanessa explained. "We had the money just sitting in savings." "We had the money sitting in savings for a house," I corrected. "Remember? The house we've been talking about buying for 2 years? We can save again." "When? While we're supporting 4 extra people?" The room went quiet except for the sound of the cartoon and Madison's loud phone conversation in the kitchen. Jake and Amy looked deeply uncomfortable. "Maybe we should head home," Amy said finally. "Let you two work this out." "You don't have to leave," Vanessa said. "Neil's just being dramatic." "I'm being dramatic? I come home every day to chaos. Our savings are gone, our house is destroyed, our marriage is falling apart, but sure, I'm being dramatic." "Your house is destroyed?" Jake asked, looking around. The living room was messy, but it wasn't destroyed. "You should see the garage," I said. "Kyle turned it into a recording studio. You should see our grocery bills. You should see our credit card statements." "Neil," Vanessa started. "No, let me finish. You want to know what's dramatic?" "What's dramatic is that I can't have a conversation with my wife without her sister's boyfriend wandering in to grab a beer from our refrigerator. What's dramatic is that I'm working overtime to pay for groceries for people who don't contribute anything to this household. What's dramatic is that my wife thinks I'm selfish for wanting some say in how we spend our life savings." Jake stood up. "We should really go." "Please don't leave because of this," Vanessa said. "Neil's just having a hard time adjusting." "Adjusting to what?" "Adjusting to being a guest in my own home." "You're not a guest. You're being ridiculous." "Am I?" "Kyle, come out here for a minute." "Neil, don't," Vanessa warned. Kyle appeared from the garage holding a sandwich and wearing the same clothes he'd had on yesterday. "What's up?" "Kyle, how much money have you contributed to this household since you moved in?" He looked confused. "Contributed? Money. For groceries, utilities, rent. How much?" "Well, I've been helping out around the house." "How much money?" "I'm between gigs right now, but once my music career takes off." "How much money have you contributed to this household?" Kyle looked at Vanessa, then at Madison, who had appeared in the doorway. Money isn't everything, you know? I contribute in other ways." "Zero," I said to Jake and Amy. "The answer is zero. $0 in almost a month." "Neil, that's enough," Vanessa said. "Madison, same question. How much money have you contributed?" "I'm looking for work," Madison said defensively. "It's not easy with 3 kids." "How much money?" "She doesn't have to answer that," Vanessa said. "Zero," I said. "Also zero. But somehow I'm selfish for thinking that's a problem." Jake and Amy were already moving toward the door. "We'll call you later," Amy said to Vanessa. "You don't have to leave," Vanessa called after them. But they were already gone. And I knew they wouldn't call later. I knew we wouldn't hear from them again until this situation was resolved, one way or another. "Great," Vanessa said. "Are you happy now?" "You embarrassed me in front of our friends." "I embarrassed you?" "I told the truth. If that's embarrassing, maybe the problem isn't me." "The problem is definitely you," Kyle said. "You're being really negative, man." "Madison and I are going through a tough time, and instead of being supportive, you're making everything about money." I stared at him. Kyle, you're 24 years old. You have no job, no savings, no plan, and 3 kids. How is that not about money? Because money isn't the most important thing in life. Easy to say when someone else is paying for everything. I'm an artist. Artists have always depended on patrons. Patrons choose to support artists. They don't get ambushed into it. Neil, Vanessa said, you're being cruel. I'm being honest. There's a difference. Honesty without compassion is just cruelty. Compassion without boundaries is just enabling. Over the next week, things got worse. Jake and Amy didn't call. Our other friends started making excuses when we invited them to things. Kyle's music got louder, Madison's kids got more destructive, and Vanessa got more defensive. The breaking point came on Saturday morning. I woke up to find that Kyle had invited some of his musician friends over for a jam session in our garage. There were 4 guys I'd never seen before, plus all their equipment, plus Kyle's equipment, plus enough beer cans to stock a small store. What is this? I asked Vanessa, who was making breakfast for what looked like an army. Kyle's working on some new material. He wanted to collaborate with some other artists. In our garage? Without asking us? I said it was fine. You said it was fine? When? Last night. You were watching TV. I had been watching TV in our bedroom with the door closed, because it was the only place in the house where I could get some peace and quiet. So you made this decision without talking to me. You would have said no. You're right. I would have said no. Because it's Saturday morning and our neighbors don't want to listen to amateur hour rock band practice. They're not amateur. Kyle's really talented. As if to prove her wrong, a particularly awful guitar solo screeched from the garage, followed by what sounded like someone dropping a drum kit. Vanessa, this has to stop. What has to stop? All of it. Madison, Kyle, the kids, the chaos, the spending, the complete lack of consideration for anyone else in this house. They're family. I'm family too. Remember me? Your husband? You're acting like a stranger. I'm acting like someone who's been pushed too far. By people who need help. By people who are taking advantage of us. Madison appeared in the kitchen, holding the baby. Is everything okay? You guys are getting pretty loud. Everything's fine, Vanessa said quickly. No, everything's not fine, I said. Madison, I need you and Kyle and the kids to start looking for somewhere else to live. Madison's face crumpled. But we don't have anywhere to go. That's not my problem anymore. Neil, Vanessa snapped. You can't just kick them out. I can, and I am. This is my house too, and I want my life back. Where are we supposed to go? Madison asked, starting to cry. I don't know. A shelter, maybe. Your ex-boyfriend's place. Kyle's parents. Anywhere but here. You're being heartless, Vanessa said. I'm being sane. Madison, don't listen to him, Vanessa said. You're not going anywhere. Yes, she is. Because if she's not gone by the end of the week, I am. You don't mean that. Try me. I walked out of the kitchen and straight to my car. I needed to get away from the house, from the noise, from the constant drama. I drove to a coffee shop across town and called my lawyer again. Tom, it's Neil. I need those papers ready by Monday. You sure about this? I've never been more sure of anything in my life. When I got home that evening, the house was quiet. Too quiet. I found Vanessa in the living room, sitting alone on the couch. Where is everyone? Madison took the kids to the park. Kyle went to see about a gig. A real gig? I don't know, Neil. I don't interrogate people about their lives. I sat down across from her. Vanessa, we need to talk. If you're going to apologize for this morning, I'm not going to apologize. I'm going to give you a choice. She looked up at me, and I could see that she already knew what I was going to say. Madison and Kyle leave by Friday, or I file for divorce on Monday. You don't mean that. I absolutely mean that. You'd end our marriage over this? You ended our marriage when you chose them over us. I didn't choose them over us. I chose to help family. You chose to help them without consulting me. You chose to give away our savings without asking me. You chose to turn our home into a halfway house without considering how I felt about it. Every choice you've made for the past month has been about them, not us. They needed help. We need help. Our marriage needs help. But you're too busy saving Madison and Kyle to notice that you're destroying everything we built together. Vanessa was quiet for a long moment. What if I promise things will change? What if Madison gets a job and Kyle starts contributing? What if they don't? What if this goes on for another month, another 6 months, another year? What if Kyle never gets a real job? What if Madison never gets her GED? What if they just keep taking and taking until there's nothing left of us? That won't happen. It's already happening. So you're giving me an ultimatum. I'm giving you a choice. Choose your marriage, or choose to be Madison's caretaker. But you can't do both. That's not fair. What's not fair is that I've become a stranger in my own home. What's not fair is that I'm working overtime to support people who don't appreciate it and don't contribute anything. What's not fair is that my wife thinks I'm selfish for wanting some say in how we live our lives. They're family. So am I. That night, I slept in the guest room. Not because Vanessa kicked me out, but because Madison's kids had taken over our bedroom to watch movies on our laptop, and nobody seemed to think there was anything wrong with that. The next morning, I woke up to Kyle making breakfast in our kitchen. Not for everyone, just for himself. He was using the last of the eggs, the last of the bacon, and the last of the bread, humming along to music playing through his earbuds. "Morning," he said cheerfully when he saw me. "Kyle, did you leave any food for anyone else?" "Oh, there's plenty of stuff, cereal, fruit, whatever." I opened the refrigerator. There was no cereal. The kids had finished it yesterday. There was no fruit. Madison had used it all to make smoothies. There was some yogurt that was 3 days past its expiration date and a jar of pickles. This is it? Vanessa said she was going grocery shopping today. With what money? Kyle shrugged. I don't really handle the money stuff. Right. You don't handle the money stuff, the job stuff, the responsibility stuff. What exactly do you handle? I'm working on my music. Your music doesn't pay for groceries. Not yet, but not ever. Kyle, you're 24 years old. You have 3 kids. You need to get a real job. Music is a real job. Playing around in our garage is not a job. It's a hobby that other people are paying for. Look, I get that you're frustrated, but you don't understand the music industry. I understand that musicians who make money from music have fans and record deals and gigs that pay them. What do you have? I have talent. Talent doesn't pay rent. You're being really negative. I'm being realistic. Same thing, in your world. I stared at him. He was eating my food, living in my house, using my electricity to power his equipment, and somehow I was the problem because I expected him to contribute something. Kyle, you have until Friday. Until Friday for what? To find somewhere else to live. Vanessa said we could stay as long as we needed. Vanessa doesn't make decisions for this household by herself. She's Madison's sister. And I'm her husband. So I have a say in who lives in my house. It's Vanessa's house, too. You're right. And when she starts paying the mortgage by herself, she can make decisions by herself. Kyle looked confused. I thought you guys were partners. We were, until she decided to be partners with you and Madison instead. That afternoon, I got a call from Jake. Hey Neil, Amy and I were talking and we wanted to check in on you. I'm fine. Well, I'm not fine, but I'm dealing with it. Look, we don't want to get in the middle of anything, but we're worried about you and Vanessa. You should be. Is there anything we can do? You can be honest with me. What did you think of the situation when you came over? Jake was quiet for a moment. You want the truth? I want the truth. It was uncomfortable. The house felt chaotic, and it seemed like Vanessa was in over her head. But mostly, it felt like you and Vanessa were on completely different pages about how to handle it. We are. Have you guys thought about counseling? Jake, we're past counseling. Vanessa gave away our life savings without telling me. She's turned our house into a commune. She calls me selfish for wanting some boundaries. What's a counselor going to say about that? I don't know, man. But 5 years of marriage is worth fighting for, isn't it? I thought so. But Vanessa doesn't seem to agree. What do you mean? She's choosing her sister over our marriage. She's made that pretty clear. Maybe she just doesn't see it that way. Then she's not paying attention. That evening, Madison approached me while I was trying to watch TV. The kids were running around the living room, Kyle was playing music in the garage, and Vanessa was on the phone with someone, talking loudly about work drama. Neil, can I talk to you? Sure. I know you're upset about us being here. I'm not upset, Madison. I'm overwhelmed. I want you to know that I'm grateful for everything you and Vanessa have done. I really am. Okay. But I also want you to know that I don't have anywhere else to go. Kyle's parents won't let us stay there because of some stupid fight he had with his dad. My mom's apartment is too small, and I can't afford a place on my own. Madison, that's not my fault. I know it's not your fault, but it's not my fault either. Sometimes life just happens, you know? Life happens to everyone. Most people figure out how to handle it without moving in with their relatives indefinitely. I'm not planning to stay indefinitely. What's your plan? I'm going to get my GED and then I'm going to get a better job and then Kyle and I are going to save up for our own place. How long will that take? I don't know. Maybe a year, maybe less. It depends on how quickly I can get through the program. Madison, you've been saying you're going to get your GED for 4 years. What makes you think this time will be different? Because now I have to. I have kids to think about. You had kids to think about 4 years ago. She looked hurt. I've been doing my best. I know you have. But your best isn't working. You need a new plan. What kind of plan? The kind where you and Kyle take responsibility for your own lives instead of depending on other people to fix your problems. We're not depending on other people. We're just going through a rough patch. Madison, you've been going through a rough patch since you were 18. At some point, it's not a rough patch anymore. It's just your life. That's mean. It's honest. Why can't you be supportive like Vanessa? Because someone needs to tell you the truth. The truth according to you. The truth according to reality. She started crying. I don't know why you hate me so much. I don't hate you, Madison. I hate this situation. I hate that you and Kyle seem to think that other people are responsible for solving your problems. I hate that my wife has turned into someone I don't recognize because she's so focused on rescuing you. I hate that my marriage is falling apart because no one in this house seems to understand the difference between helping and enabling. We're not asking you to solve our problems. We're just asking for a place to stay until we can get back on our feet. You're asking for a lot more than that. You're asking for food, utilities, money, childcare, emotional support, and complete tolerance for the chaos that follows you everywhere you go. And you're asking for it indefinitely, with no concrete plan for when it will end. I told you my plan. Your plan is a fantasy. Getting your GED won't automatically get you a job that pays enough to support 3 kids. Kyle's music career isn't going to take off just because he practices in our garage. You need real plans, with real timelines and real backup options. You don't believe in us. I don't believe in magical thinking. Vanessa believes in us. Vanessa wants to believe in you. There's a difference. That night, Vanessa and I had our final fight. "Madison's crying," she said when she came to bed. "Madison's always crying. She said you told her that her plan was a fantasy. Her plan is a fantasy. You don't know that. Vanessa, she's 22 years old with 3 kids and no high school diploma. Kyle is 24 with no job skills and delusions of musical grandeur. What part of their plan seems realistic to you? The part where they're trying to improve their lives. They're not trying to improve their lives. They're trying to get comfortable in ours. That's not true. When's the last time Kyle applied for a job? A real job, not a music gig. I don't know. When's the last time Madison actually went to the community college to ask about GED programs? She's been busy with the kids. She's been busy shopping with our credit cards and gossiping on the phone with her friends. You're being unfair. I'm being observant. You're being cruel. And you're being naive. I'm being supportive of family. You're being an enabler. I can't believe you just said that. I can't believe it took me this long to say it. Vanessa stared at me. You really want me to kick out my sister and her children. I want you to stop choosing them over us. I'm not choosing them over us. Every decision you've made for the past month has been about them. Every conversation we've had has been about them. Every dollar we've spent has been on them. How is that not choosing them over us? Because helping them doesn't hurt us. It's destroying us. It's destroying you. I'm fine with the situation. Are you? Are you fine with the fact that we have no savings? Are you fine with the fact that our friends don't want to come over anymore? Are you fine with the fact that we can't have a conversation without someone interrupting us? Are you fine with the fact that I'm sleeping in the guest room because your nephews have taken over our bedroom? Those are temporary problems. How temporary? Give me a date, Vanessa. Give me a specific date when Madison and Kyle will be out of our house. I can't give you a specific date. Then give me a general time frame. When they're ready. That's not an answer. It's the only answer I have. Then here's my answer. I filed for divorce today. The silence that followed was deafening. Even Kyle's music seemed to stop. You what? I filed for divorce. The papers will be served tomorrow. You can't be serious. I've never been more serious about anything in my life. Over this? You're ending our marriage over this? You ended our marriage when you decided that Madison's needs were more important than our relationship. That's not what happened. That's exactly what happened. You gave away our savings without asking me. You moved 4 people into our house without consulting me. You've made every major decision about our lives based on what Madison needs, not what we need. I was trying to help family. You were trying to be the hero. And you turned me into the villain for wanting some say in my own life. Neil, please. We can work this out. How? By setting boundaries that you'll ignore? By making plans that you'll change without telling me? By pretending that this situation is temporary when everyone involved seems committed to making it permanent? Madison and Kyle won't stay forever. You're right. They won't. Because I won't be here to support them. You're really going to leave me over this? You really chose them over me. I chose to help people who needed help. You chose to sacrifice our marriage to enable people who refuse to help themselves. The next morning, I woke up to chaos. Madison was screaming at Kyle about something. The kids were crying. Vanessa was on the phone with someone, probably her lawyer, and Kyle was in the garage, playing his music louder than ever. I packed a bag and left for work early. When I came home that evening, there was a note on the kitchen counter. Neil, Madison, Kyle, and the kids are staying at my mom's for a few days while we figure this out. We need to talk. Vanessa. I looked around the house. It was quiet, clean, peaceful. For the first time in a month, I could think clearly. I called Tom, my lawyer. The papers were served this morning. How did she take it? About as well as you'd expect. Tom, I want to make sure I'm being fair here. I'm not trying to destroy Vanessa financially. I just want out. Understood. We'll aim for a clean split. You keep your retirement accounts, she keeps hers. You'll probably have to buy her out of the house or sell it and split the proceeds. That's fine. Neil, are you sure about this? Divorce is expensive and emotionally brutal. If there's any chance of reconciliation, there isn't. How can you be so sure? Because even with Madison and Kyle gone, Vanessa still doesn't understand why I was upset. She thinks this is about money, or space, or me being selfish. She doesn't understand that it's about partnership. It's about making decisions together. It's about putting our marriage first. And you don't think she can learn to understand that? I think she's already made her choice. That weekend, Vanessa came by to pick up some clothes. We sat in the living room and had the conversation I'd been dreading. The house feels empty, she said. It feels peaceful. Neil, I've been thinking about what you said. About partnership and making decisions together. Okay. Maybe I could have handled things differently. Maybe? I should have talked to you before giving Madison the money. Yes, you should have. And I should have asked you before telling them they could stay indefinitely. Yes, you should have. But I still think you're wrong about them. Madison is trying. Kyle is trying. They just need more time. And there it was. Even now, even after everything, she still didn't get it. Vanessa, how much time? How much of our money? How much of our lives are you willing to sacrifice for people who have shown no ability to solve their own problems? They're not just people. They're family. I'm family too. It's different. Why? Because you're an adult. You can take care of yourself. So can Madison. So can Kyle. They just choose not to, because it's easier to let other people do it for them. That's not fair. What's not fair is that you expect more responsibility from me than you do from them. I don't expect you to be responsible for them. You expect me to pay for them. You expect me to house them. You expect me to tolerate the chaos they bring into our lives. You expect me to smile and be supportive while they drain our resources and destroy our peace of mind. How is that not being responsible for them? I expect you to be compassionate. I expect you to be realistic. We stared at each other across the coffee table that Kyle had broken and Madison had promised to replace, but never did. So that's it? Vanessa asked. 5 years of marriage and you're just giving up? I'm not giving up. I'm accepting reality. You've made your choice, and it wasn't me. I chose to help people who needed help. You chose to enable people who refuse to help themselves, and you chose to do it at the expense of our marriage. I don't see it that way. I know you don't. That's the problem. 3 months later, the divorce was final. Vanessa bought me out of the house with money she borrowed from her parents. Madison and Kyle moved back in with her the day after the papers were signed. I found out later through mutual friends that Kyle never did get a real job. His music career never took off. Madison never got her GED. They lived with Vanessa for 2 more years until she finally reached her breaking point and kicked them out. By then, Vanessa had burned through most of her savings and damaged several friendships. Madison and Kyle eventually moved in with Kyle's parents, who lasted about 6 months before kicking them out too. The last I heard, they were living in a trailer park outside the city. Madison was working part-time at a gas station. Kyle was still talking about his music career. As for me, I bought a small condo across town. It's quiet. It's peaceful. It's mine. Sometimes I wonder if I was too harsh, too inflexible, too unwilling to compromise. But then I remember the chaos, the constant drama, the complete lack of boundaries or accountability. I remember feeling like a stranger in my own home, like my opinions and feelings didn't matter, like I existed only to fund other people's poor decisions. I remember Vanessa calling me selfish for wanting a say in how we spent our life savings. I remember Kyle acting like I owed him something just because he existed. I remember Madison crying and playing the victim every time someone suggested she take responsibility for her own life. And I remember the relief I felt when it was finally over. Some people might say I should have tried harder, been more patient, more understanding, but I think there's a difference between helping people and enabling them. There's a difference between temporary assistance and permanent dependency. There's a difference between supporting family and sacrificing everything for people who refuse to support themselves. Vanessa never understood those differences. Maybe she couldn't, or maybe she just didn't want to. Either way, it cost us our marriage. But it taught me something important about boundaries, about self-respect, about the difference between being compassionate and being a doormat. I don't regret the divorce. I regret that it was necessary. I regret that Vanessa chose Madison's comfort over our partnership. I regret that 5 years of marriage meant less to her than the approval of people who contributed nothing but chaos to our lives. But I don't regret standing up for myself. I don't regret refusing to be taken advantage of. I don't regret choosing my own peace of mind over other people's drama. And I don't regret learning that sometimes the most loving thing you can do is say no.